Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, we are going to talk about family triggers during the holiday because we just got through Thanksgiving. I went home for Thanksgiving, and my team and I talk a lot about what it's like being around our family for the holidays and how oftentimes that's so triggering to us. And I want to give you a guideline of how to support yourself through that time. The thing is that triggers with our family can show up in so many different ways. It can be, let's say you're having people to your house, you have to make sure that the sheets are fresh and the everything's coiffed and it looks perfect because you feel this anxiety to present, which is so crazy because if your own family is coming, you should be able to just like breathe and be like, oh, thank goodness it's just my family. But we don't do that so oftentimes we place more pressure on ourselves because we fear judgment from our family of what will they think if my house looks a mess? What will they think if my kids go raging around the house? Like there is so much wrapped up in visits from our family members. Now, the other part is, let's say you go to family members, you go to their house, right? I just went to my family's house for the holidays for Thanksgiving. There is so much wrapped back up into, gosh, even if you're staying in your old room that you grew up in, I didn't because my parents have since moved, but there is just so much that can come with stepping back into that old world of I used to live here, this used to be my life. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that experience for me and what came up for me. And that will also help guide you. As you know, I always give you personal examples, but it will help guide you into what possibly is coming in the next few weeks. The other side of this is in laws. If you are spending time with your chosen family, right? Your spouse's family, that can be such a doozy. And you can feel like you don't belong. You can feel like you're not accepted. You can feel like you struggle to hold boundaries with in laws or that side of the family. You can struggle with how your parents or your in laws choose to support your children or help parent your children. And they can give advice and unwanted, solicited advice on how to parent your children. There is just so much underneath holidays and holiday time and how to show up and what we're wearing and all the different things. So I'm going to take you really far back. And as always, I promise I have a reason to do this. But I was thinking about this. I have never been one that's phenomenal on the phone. I'm just not a good phone person. Like my mom and dad used to get upset with me because I wasn't phenomenal with the phone during college. And my family would say, this is all we have, like to keep us connected and going. And they're so right. Like hands down, they're so right. I've just never been. I think it really truly stems from who I am to my core. And I still am that way today. And I feel it even more today. And I've owned that portion of myself. I don't do great with small talk. Like I just don't. I want to get to the root and cause and like, let's dive deep and like all the things. And when it's a phone call of like, yeah, I went to math today, at college and yeah, I did this and that. Like it's not, it just feels like a chore for me. And so I've never been really great with the phone. And so when I would go home for the holidays in college, you have such a large break that I'm not kidding you. It would for sure, and I would feel it. I would physically feel it. And I would, even back then, even you listening to all my podcasts and knowing how much I track data of regulation and dysregulation, I was even tracking back then, and I recognized my first year coming home from college that I was completely dysregulated for about the first week, and not sensorily, but more emotionally dysregulated. Because if you think about it, you have someone telling you what to do, you have someone barking at you all their rules that you have not had to attune and attend to for a really long time, especially when you're in college. And the first week and first year that I came home from college, my mom and I butt heads so bad, like so bad. It was not good. And I totally remember it. And I thought about it and I was like, okay, this week is better. And so it took me about a week or so to be able to transition from my college life to home life. And then my brain was situated. And you know that I talk about transitions a lot. Transitions are probably one of the most important pieces for you to take away from this podcast today, because that is truly what it's all about. What is happening when you have someone step into your home, or when you go home, or when you are around your in-laws, or whatever is going on, right, for your individual family. That is a transition. Hello, also, your children are about to be out of school, which them being home all day is a big transition. And I recognize literally as a young child in college that after about a week, my mom and I would settle in and we'd find our routine and we'd get back to us of like what it was like for us to live together and be able to ding, 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 co-regulate, to be quite honest, right? And I knew that going into each subsequent year going home for college, no joke. Like I knew, okay, this is going to be a rocky week, and it would support me in knowing that it was going to be a rocky week and I could get through it. And then I was like, there it is. Like we're totally good. And at the time I didn't know co-regulation. I didn't know like transition. I didn't know all these neurological terms. I had yet to go to grad school yet. Now, cue this past week, I went home for Thanksgiving. You know my rule of threes, and it hit me like a ton of bricks on day 4. And I was like, how did I not talk myself through this? And how did I not prep myself? Day 1 was slight discomfort of being in a new environment and situating myself into my mom's house and all that entails, and finding my groove with my mom and sister and her family again. And there's so many triggers that come up for me in New Orleans because that's where the majority of my marriage with Jonathan was. And there's so much there. The first time I went back to New Orleans after Jonathan had passed, it took me a really, really long time, to be quite honest. I think it probably took me a year. So it gets better every single time. But there's just a lot of heaviness for me. But day 1 wasn't that bad. It was just, newness. I also know, and take this and remember this, I also know that the first night I sleep anywhere new, it's not going to be the best night of sleep. Again, I always track that. And by day 3, I'm like, my body has situated into the sleeping situation, if you will. So track that when you're traveling, no joke. Day 2, I was more tearful, and I swallowed my tears and I hid my tears. And I was just triggered by those certain familial triggers that come up. I mean, I don't want to share too much in terms of specifics because I think that they are my individual triggers, and I don't think that it's anyone doing anything wrong, right? It's not my family doing anything wrong. It's my own triggers that I know I need to move through. And sometimes it's a beautiful mirror for me of like, you're feeling that, Brooke, but that's because you still have work to do, let's say, on your own healing in that area, right? And so the second day, I definitely moved through some triggers. And I'm happy to give you one specific. We were sitting at dinner with my dad and his fiance, and everything was fine. Everything was totally fine, but I just felt like I was on the verge of tears because I don't do fluff very well. I don't do, as I say often, I don't do small talk very often. So I just wanted to look at my dad and wanted my dad to be how are you? Like, tell me for real, like, what's going on? Like, how, pick up where we left off on our last phone conversation, let's say. And it was a little bit more like, the fluff in the beginning. And of course, you settle in each time and each day that I was with my family, you settle in more and more and you start to co regulate and really truly live life together. But it was like a moment where I was like, I just need my dad. Like, I just need my dad to be the parent and me to be almost like the child, and for someone else, like my parents, right, to hold me. And I don't have that as much anymore because I am an adult and I am a parent and I do hold a lot on my own plate as a solo working mom. And my mom and dad are not used to holding all of that for me because we don't live in the same city. But I like swallowed it down and I shared, with my support and my partner and all the things at night. And like I moved through it, right? Day 3 was Thanksgiving. And again, it was like every meal that I sat down at, I just felt like I wanted to tear up. And I mostly held on to it. I did share some of it with my sister. I would say I feel closest enough to share the vulnerable side of me with my sister. But it wasn't enough. And I know for me, I need to, like I allow all of my clients to do, I need to word vomit it out. Like, I need to verbally process it. That is the best thing for me. That is what I need. And I know that. And so I stepped away from the table at Thanksgiving, of course, when we were done. And I leaned on my support and I just let it rip. When I tell you, like, 12 minutes, I just let it rip. I said everything I needed to say. And I can't tell you how much better I felt after allowing myself to verbally move through it for me. And again, it doesn't always have to do with your family. It doesn't always have to do with what they are doing to you. It is oftentimes a mirror, or 1000% our own triggers and emotional stuff that we are still moving through. Because I know I can't change my family. I know that I need to love and accept them for exactly who they are and the beautiful parts of them. 1000%. I know that. So I know that my own work is continuing to heal and move through whatever trigger comes up for me, right? I'm going to give you an example of this. If you are fearful of having your own parents stay at your house and you are fearful that they will judge how the towels look, or that they're dirty, or that you need to go buy new towels before they come so you make sure they're all fresh because they're going to say something. It is not your job to fix that for them. And I totally think I've given you this example before, but I'll tell you it again. When I was in the midst, when I was in the thick of the first year of grief, my mom came into the bathroom and she was like, "Brooke, smell this towel." And I was like, okay. And I'm pretty sure I had just been hysterically crying in the bathroom. I basically cried the whole first year. And I was like, she's like, "Oh, this smells rancid." And I was like, okay. And she was like, you need to get new towels. And I was like, okay. Or maybe she was like, "You need to wash these." And I was like, so wash it? I don't really know what to tell you. And trust me, I have done a lot of work around that to be like, this is me. This is who I am. I don't have time to wait on you hand and foot when you're in my home. But most of us do show up and say, "Oh, wait, I need to make sure that the towel is this and that. Now, I do want to give a little shout out to my mom. My mom wasn't doing that to poke the bear and be like, you're not doing enough. My mom wasn't saying any of that to tell me that I'm failing. Okay. Our brains may feel that. I can vividly remember my mom told me one time in our house in New Orleans, she was like, the molding on the house is, I was like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I think we had many conversations where I was like, Mom, unless I ask, like, don't tell me. Like, I don't want to know. I don't care. And she was like, okay, like, but my mom didn't know that that was making me feel, especially back a decade ago, like hands down a decade ago, that would have been so triggering to me. Now I'm just like, all right, well, like wash the towel. But I took it as I'm not doing enough. It's one more thing that I am not showing up to the party for, or I can't keep it together, right? And it is not for you to fix, right? It is not for you to make sure that everything is perfect in the way that your in-laws or parents or other family members or whatever, it doesn't need to be perfect in that way. And a lot of times we do these things to stop those comments from happening because it's so triggering to us. Because it does make you feel like you're not doing enough. I got to tell you, you're doing enough. Trust me, you're doing enough. I know I'm doing enough to the point where maybe that towel's rancid and we got to throw it out because like there is so much to do that like maybe I didn't have time to smell the towel. So make sure that you are checking in with yourself, right? Like, how do you feel? Like, how do I feel? How do I feel? Right? Now, I did go off a little bit, but I want to go all the way back because that day, Thanksgiving, like I said, I word vomited. I moved through it. I emotionally processed so much, leaned on my support. And by day 4, I shit you not, we were co-regulated and living life together. And we all started smiling and we were all living as a community, our family. We were all living as a team rather than my sister coming from St. Louis, me coming from Texas, my mom is in New Orleans, and through like 3 different dynamics, 3 different households coming together as one. But it took a few days. And we had a blast and we loved each other's time and we made some fantastic memories this Thanksgiving. But it wasn't perfect because it does take time. Now, that's like the transition side of things. Let's discuss a bit of the side of parenting or grandparenting our children. I know that shit drives you up the wall. It's like, no, right? Even the expectations of, or the eyes lurking of like, oh, there's so many examples I could give you. Okay. First example that comes to mind is, let's say you have a highly sensitive or highly sensory kiddo, especially the seekers. I have had families in the past that say that their in-laws or family or parents or whatever, the family, they just look with glaring eyes and you can like feel the disapproval and it makes you feel as though you're not parenting your child at all, or they're just bad behaved children. They have no idea what it's like within the walls of your home. They have no idea how you are choosing to support your child. I said this a really long time on a podcast, but I'll say it again. If you are the parent who freaks out when your child has a meltdown in the middle of Target and you're so scared that everyone's going to look around and see that you're a terrible parent and you are like, you're taking it on. You think you're ever going to see that person again who's like making eyes at you and thinks that your child is so terrible because they're having a meltdown? We have all been there before, on a plane, in a restaurant, in the grocery, Target or Walmart or what. Like, we have all had that moment where our child is literally kicking and thrashing and screaming on the floor. I literally, every time I see that, I just want to make eye contact with that mom and be like, you're doing a good job. Or dad. And just be like, you're doing a good job. Because you are. So when you get lurking eyes, and I know it hurts, right? That's the trigger. That's the mirror. That's the things that we need to move through for ourselves. Trust and know that you are doing everything you can possibly do to support your own individual family. You don't need to defend how you're parenting to your own family. If your own family is making eyes, shame on them, because they should know that you're a phenomenal enough person or a badass enough parent that you are doing what you need to do, right? So don't take that on. Don't take on their yuck. Just like hold a boundary, walk away, and share, like word vomit, do whatever you need to do, support your nervous system, emotionally regulate yourself, and move through it for you, because they are never going to give you what you need if they are the ones that are rolling their eyes and judging. A family member, like legit, listen to this and hear this. A family member should never, never judge. There should be so much unconditional love and trust of like, I know that you're going through a lot, or I know that you're doing the best you can, or I know that they're a handful, or I know that they're hard. Like, you've got a tough cookie. Like, I see you. How can I support you? How can I help? Those rolling eyes aren't doing shit when you need help. Right? So what I'm telling you is I need you. This is what I need. I need you to trust and know that you are enough as a parent and that you're doing the best you can, and that maybe your children struggle when they're traveling, or maybe your children struggle when there's people in the house. Like, there could be so many different reasons why your child is maybe acting up a little. Hello, it's the holidays. I've already said, like, from Halloween till mid-January, we are shit out of luck. Like, it's all bets off because they've been hyped up on candy, and then it's just a downward spiral. It's just crazy. But even if they aren't on a downward spiral, your children, because of all the different transitions in school and back to school and out of school and this and that, and they're just a sensitive sensory kiddo, there may be struggles and you're exhausted and the eye rolls don't help. So I need you to trust yourself and know that you are doing enough and you are fantastic. And we need to lean on our support with the ones that we can show up with, right? And I got to tell you, going all the way back to the story at dinner with my dad, I could have looked at my dad. I know I have that safety. I could have looked at my dad and been like, Dad, can I have a hug? Or like, Dad, like, I'm not doing well. Or like, I just feel sad tonight. Or like, whatever it is, I know I can do that. Sometimes we don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that. I was not going to do that in the middle of a restaurant. Like, I just wasn't, especially when my kids were struggling and starving and all the different things, right? Which leads me to the next piece of advice during this holiday season. When things like this happen, when you get the eye rolls, or when you feel like you're performing for your family, or you're making sure that the bed is coiffed perfectly and everything has a place and there's judgment, I want you to sit down and talk to your family about it. Share with them how it makes you feel. I statements, not you statements, but I. Because the release that you will feel from sharing your feelings, it will actually connect you. And I have a podcast on this, of having the hard conversations, right? But it will connect you that much farther closer to your family. Hopefully, right? Their response back may trigger you. They might be defensive, but if you know they may be defensive, sometimes just sharing it is enough and being able to say it out loud. Now, we've talked about expectations with our parents. We've talked about, and family. We've talked about, different dynamics with our family. The next thing I want to talk about is boundaries with our family. The ones who are trying to parent your children, or parent you, or they're doing the things that you're like, I asked you not to do that, right? It is okay to hold boundaries. What do I mean by that? It's okay to say no. It's okay to share with them, hey, that is a boundary. I need you to respect that. They've already had their shot. They already raised us, right? They already did their thing. Now it's our turn. It is our turn. We don't have to be nasty when we say these things, but you do get to decide. And I need you to know that just because you hold a boundary does not mean that that boundary will be accepted with like smiles. They may be pissed. They may be like, well, what? Like, whatever. They're allowed to have their own emotions about it. But you also get to state your boundaries, whether it's comfortable for them or not. So know that, right? Just like the hard conversations, it may be that it doesn't go so well because they're defensive. They're allowed to have their emotions just like you are. You don't have to take them on, right? That's the difference. You don't have to, if you hold a boundary and they don't like the boundary, you don't have to take on their emotions from the boundary that you just set. You can be like, okay, well, that didn't feel so good for them, but like it had to be said, or I had to like, I had to talk about it. And that's okay. Now, the last part that I really want to talk with you on is feel into those 3 days. See if you do feel like there's a transition of the 3-day period, right? I need you to lean into the good. There is a reason it is called winter break. And that is because it is supposed to be a break for your brain and your body. It is not supposed to be a ramp up of like getting in all the holiday parties and cheer and finding all the perfect outfits and running around town and exhausting yourself. And that's not what this is supposed to be. And, you know, cooking the perfect ham, like that's not what this is supposed to be. That's what it's turned into. All the holiday parties and all of this and all of that, pomp and circumstance. But for 2 weeks, majority of the world takes it easy on work. They don't do as much work as they normally do the rest of the year, right? Some have to ramp up, I know, but that's a time where you can take the load off, get some more rest, repair your nervous system, really support your nervous system, lean into taking care of yourself, be present with your children, enjoy. If for one moment during the holiday season, one moment, you are able to sit back, relax, and just observe your surroundings, that is taking a mental like scrapbook, right? Of this year's holiday season. And I guarantee you, you will remember it next year. But if you never stop and smell the roses, life will pass you by because your nervous system is going to keep up with that. Your nervous system is going to keep up with the rate that you expect it to keep going and ask it to go. So what I need from you this holiday season, and I'm asking a lot of needs here, but that's because I care about you. I want you to slow down and enjoy the other side of life, which is the calm life and the peaceful life and the life where you can really lean in and enjoy. And my hope for you this holiday season is that you take care of yourself and that you find joy and that you support yourself, no matter what that looks like. If you're with your family, support yourself. If you can't wait on them hand and foot, like support yourself. If you need the eye rolling to stop, support yourself. Like do what you need to do for you. This is, for a lot of people, a really hard time of the year. We know historically depression and drinking is at an all-time high, and suicide is at an all-time high during the holiday season because there is just so much pressure and so much expectations, and it's sometimes gloomy outside, and that doesn't help. And the one thing that can combat all of that is taking care of yourself. And if you're finding yourself sad, lonely, depressed over the holiday season, it's not going to take one day to fix. So if you feel crappy one day, like I just told you, took me about 3 to 4 days, fourth day was awesome, to kind of lean in and feel happy and not feel like I wanted to cry at every meal. And I know that that was just my brain and body transitioning back to home, just like it was in college. But I say that so often because I want you to know that it doesn't happen overnight. And dysregulation into regulation does not happen overnight. Anxiety into calm does not happen in a blink of an eye. Fight or flight into rest and digest does not happen overnight. It takes time, especially when you've been pounding the pavement all year long. And because you've been pounding the pavement all year long, that's the exact reason why I don't want you to start adding more to your plate with your family or taking on the emotional dysregulation of your family, like all that stuff. So this holiday season, I need you to take care of yourself because I care. I care so much. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you who listens. And I will never truly be able to express what it feels like for you to take time out of your busy day to hear what I'm saying and trust what I'm saying and care about what I'm saying and caring enough about yourself to hopefully hear this and hopefully allow this to soak in and motivate you to support yourself. It means the world to me and our team, and we wish you all the best this holiday season. And until next time, XOXO, Dr. B.